So do you see mental health by the numbers? Yes.
Yep.
Great. So the context for having the conversation is that NAMI recognizes that mental health impacts all kinds of aspects of our experience. So 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience a mental health condition every year. In 2016, the last really good comprehensive study of youth, 1 in 6 youth ages 6 to 17 experienced a mental health condition. And there are not enough clinicians to provide the kind of services that people need to live successful lives in recovery with this chronic health condition. And what I'm talking about when I talk about a chronic health condition is, let's see, that'll do that. Okay, so now you can see the slide, right? Is things like anxiety disorders, major depressive disorder, co-occurring substance use disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and bipolar disorder. So, what gets a lot of the attention in the media and from elected officials is schizophrenia because it has the very dramatic presentation, especially in a public setting with psychosis and things like that. But actually, things like anxiety and major depressive disorder occur in far larger part of the population. In fact, anxiety is the largest, is the most significant disabling condition preventing people from working in the world. So these are chronic conditions like asthma, like diabetes, like high blood pressure. They're also treatable, and people can live with them for decades with the right treatment and supports. So, how do I know that? Well, because the National Alliance on Mental Illness is an organization that exists to support people living with behavioral health conditions and their families, to educate the community about behavioral health conditions to reduce stigma, and to advocate for greater resources. And it is a national alliance. There's 600 local affiliates, 48 state organizations, and a national office in Alexandria, just outside of Washington. But basically, they're all independent 501(c)(3)s. So the key part about this is alliance. We're a federated model, and each organization provides different resources and services based on the needs of the community and the resources in the community.
Hey,
It is
Rick.
the Yes,
Rick,
sir.
I'm just going to interrupt you just real quickly because you will have to advance the slides or page down the slides as you go
Thank you.
along, just
Is
because
that
we're stuck on just the first slide right
okay? Now
now.
can you see
There we
that
go.
one?
Yep, now we're good. Thanks. Thank you.
I needed that young person doing the tech support like we talked about.
If you click on the from beginning up top, then you'll be into right now we're seeing your notes pages and stuff.
You are seeing the notes page, huh?
Well, not the notes page, but we're seeing the upcoming on the left. So it's
Okay.
not the whole screen. So if yeah, click on from beginning, then you'll go back from the start, I think.
All right. I'm gonna
Or
try.
maybe not.
Maybe, maybe not. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna stop share for a second because I had like a choice of 3 screens to
All
choose
right.
from.
All right.
All right. Now, there we go. Okay. Does this show just the alliance screen? Great. Okay. So, like I said, it's a national alliance. So the key component for the National Party is National creates signature programs that the affiliates and the state organizations deliver in the field. So we're most known for our family to family class. It's an 8 session course, and it's designed to help family members who have a loved one diagnosed with a mental health condition get the tools they need to be a good support for them. And it starts with explaining what is the brain, how does the brain work, what happens when the brain isn't working, what are some treatment modalities, what is your loved one's experience of it. And the part that is really significant is healthy communications and establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries, and then a session on what are local resources. So all of the affiliates offer that course, and then depending on what other resources and needs there are in the community, affiliates offer additional services. So am I now into the NAMI San Diego and Imperial Counties slide? Did it advance? Mhm. Okay. And I can't even see. Oh, there. Nope, that's not it either. Current slide. All right, I apologize. Let me go. Let me see if I get to the slide about the clubhouse because that's why we're all here today.
Just check, Rick, and I can try to open it on my side as well and see if I can share it for you.
That would be, if you could, that might be helpful.
Okay, let me just
And it makes how flawlessly the program ran at Rotary 33 really impressive.
everything runs smoothly at 33.
Plus, yeah, you don't want to mess up there. Here, you're good.
Except it's recorded for all posterity, so you guys can put it on the YouTube
Uh,
bloopers
yeah,
page. But
you have to you have to get now. Bob's really gonna have to get a 12-year-old to edit this.
Well, let's see if I can.
so while Bob is looking for the slide, one of the reasons that I'm talking about it is NAMI San Diego and Imperial Counties is actually the largest affiliate in the country. So because behavioral health services are considered a safety net service county function under public health, the county here in San Diego contracts out a lot of safety net services. And so what happens is NAMI San Diego and Imperial Counties gets county contracts in that space for peer support, which we use because we are people with lived experience sharing with people who are living through the experience, or family support. And because of that, we have nearly more than 150 employees, a budget of nearly $19 million. But we also run four of the 10 clubhouses in San Diego County. And so, what is a clubhouse? So, a clubhouse is a community based mental health program that emphasizes recovery through meaningful work, social connection, and peer support. It's evidence based, meaning that over time, uh, data has shown that people's outcome is better by participating in it, demonstrably better than other different outcomes. And the importance about peer support instead of clinical is it doesn't involve doctors, nurses, social workers, therapists. It's people whose own journey of recovery is used as an inspiration and model for the people that they're working with. The other thing that's interesting about the clubhouse model is members and staff at a clubhouse work together as partners to perform all the duties of the clubhouse. I'll talk a little bit about some of the nuances in San Diego County, but the idea from the first clubhouses was that this was a joint program, that there really was no distinction between members and staff, and that all the decision making was shared. The clubhouses provide a safe and welcoming environment because it is staffed by people who have experience in recovery from mental health condition, and it's geared towards the members' needs to build confidence, develop job skills, and work towards their personal goals. So one of the things you do have to complete an application to be a member, and it's a pretty comprehensive piece of paper. But one of the things that we ask you on there is, what are your own goals from this? What is it that you want to see as an outcome? And it's designed to be a community hub, not a clinical environment. So it doesn't look like a doctor's office. It doesn't look like a mental health clinic. It looks like a place where people come in and connect. Next slide, if you would, please. So membership is voluntary, free, and in San Diego County, it's open to all adults living with a mental health condition. So theoretically, anyone anywhere in the county who has a condition can come to any of the clubhouses. As a practical matter, they tend to stay in the local area where they are, but it is open to anyone. And it's one of the reasons why the county provides support to NAMI and other organizations who run the clubhouse, because it's a very cost-effective way of creating a community resource in a place where there's a lot of need. Some of the other parts of clubhouses that San Diego County funds is that they emphasize employment and education support, perhaps beyond what was originally envisioned in the model that Clubhouse International promulgates, including things like having in on staff a Social Security benefits advocate. So NAMI actually employs them to help people who may be eligible for benefits get them. And then this is part of the model, but in a lot of places there's fundraising or fundraising in the community to do it. So, for instance, here in San Diego, the part of um, the clubhouses may organize outings to SeaWorld or to the Midway Museum or even to the Padres game, and that's factored into the budget. In other places, if you're in Nashville or something like that, you want to go to the Nashville Sounds baseball game, the clubhouse participants would do their own fundraising, car washes, bake sales, and that kind of thing. So it's a little bit different. There actually is a website. There's a page buried in the San Diego County website that lists all the clubhouses and has more information. But the important thing to know is that there are both general clubhouses and specialty clubhouses. And so the difference is the specialty clubhouses, including connections to community clubhouses, targets a particular group of people who, in addition to having a mental health condition, have some other characteristic in common. Whereas the general clubhouses, it's just anyone that is eligible can come in. Next slide, if you would, please. So the NAMI San Diego and Imperial County clubhouses, like I said, we have four in San Diego and one in Imperial, which I'll talk a little bit about. So the Plaza, the East Corner, and Casa del Centro serve the areas of Chula Vista, El Cajon, or Logan Heights and Golden Hill. And anyone in the community can come in and participate in the clubhouse, uh, get services from the clubhouse, get referrals from the clubhouse. There's no restrictions on that. The connections to community clubhouse, or what we call C2C, is also open to anyone, but it specifically targets homeless and housing insecure individuals who also have a mental health condition, and it is located in downtown San Diego. So it used to be at 16th and Imperial. That facility was it's actually been red tagged and condemned. So we moved about a year and a half ago to the first floor of the Golden West at 308 G Street, G and 3. But the idea is that anyone in that neighborhood can go to that there for services, but also that our staff are specifically doing outreach in the community for homeless and housing insecure individuals. Those are all funded by the County of San Diego, and under the current model, the bulk of the funds for that comes out of the Mental Health Services Act, MHSA, that is funded by the millionaire's tax that was passed by voters in 2002. On a go forward, starting July 1st, the MHSA configuration is going away to be replaced by Behavioral Health Services Act, BHSA, which was enacted by voters in 2024 under Prop 1. And so they'll have some changes that don't impact this. But for right now, that's how it's being done. In Imperial County, we also operate a clubhouse using the same idea and models. It's just funded by the state of California. It was a pilot program that they funded, and it was designed to serve transitional age youth in Imperial County. So a little bit different because the funding is a little bit different. We had a little bit more leeway in how we could organize it because San Diego County has very specific requirements for their grant. The challenge is the funding for that is also going away because it was a pilot program or an innovation program. The state had the expectation that over time the community would identify other sustainable sources of funding. So I'll talk a little bit about what that's like. But those are the five clubhouse programs that we run. And they're all roughly aligned with the Clubhouse International standards for how a clubhouse should be. So if you want to go to the next slide, just show you what the building looks like. So this is one of our clubhouses, is Casa del Centro. And if you were driving down Imperial Avenue, you'd have no sense that this was anything, out of the ordinary. It doesn't look like a clinic. It looks like a part of the community. And inside of there, there's a kitchen, a couple of community meeting spaces, offices for work. They have uh, a place where they get donated clothing that they can also share with members. And then there's a parking lot and stuff for activities that they do out in the parking lot. I'm going to go to the next slide, please, Bob. So the most important element of a clubhouse and the key way that Clubhouse International wants it to be organized is that it operates following a work order day. And what that means is it is set up as though it was people's jobs to participate in the clubhouse because the idea is it's helping people develop job readiness skills. So the first thing is it has to be open 5 days a week. The second thing is it has to have some aspect of employment support. So the two ones that are typically found across the country is transitional employment, which is temporary job placements designed to help individuals gain or regain skills, confidence, or experience, or supported employment, which are ongoing services in connection with somebody's work activities. So this is often if someone has a significant disability beyond the mental health condition. So we can do both of them here, but there are a- there are aspects of the way California labor law is organized that make it different than the way some states do it. So, for instance, some states, if you have a clubhouse and a member has a job somewhere that he's gotten as a part of being a member of the clubhouse, the staff person that is working along with him to do that actually agrees that if the member isn't able to show up for an assigned shift, the staff person will do it. So an example might be the bagger at Albertsons, which is not the case, but I'm saying an example is that if the member didn't show up, the staff person would not go to work at the clubhouse. They'd go to Albertsons and bag for that person's 4 or 8 hour shift. So that is a huge problem with the way California labor law is organized. And it is one of the challenges that clubhouses in San Diego face when they're trying to get Clubhouse International accreditation because they can't maintain fidelity to this model and also stay in compliance with California labor law, which might be a reason why there's only 18 clubhouses in the entire state of California, and 10 of them are in San Diego. I think there's something like which is 370 in 32 states or 320 in 37 states, I mean countries. So that yeah. So that might be part of the reason. The positive aspect of clubhouses is that members and staff work side by side. So theoretically, when you go to a clubhouse, you shouldn't be able to tell the difference between who's a staff person and a member. And that is by design. And the idea is that staff people are modeling the kind of behavior that members want to be exhibiting when they're on their own in the community. So in our clubhouses, they cook the meals side by side. They actually do meal planning, meal prep, cooking, service. They eat lunch together. They do the cleanup and so on. They are supposed to be partners in the administration of that. This also gets tricky, though, with California and its labor laws and privacy rules. But they're supposed to be doing administration in terms of setting schedules and shifts and things like that. And they're partners in outreach. So when we're going out in the community, inviting people to join clubhouses, members and staff are going together. And then they're also doing side-by-side social and educational opportunities, including structured classes, art, music, and community events. So one of the things that, yeah, and I think well, when we get to another slide, I'll show you something interesting. But one of the things that's interesting is the classes are not just staff telling what they've learned and what their expertise is, but members sharing the unique things that they've had. So some of the members at the clubhouses are fluent in multiple languages, so they offer rudimentary classes in their native tongue or whatever it is, and that's part of offering services that are unique. Next slide, please. So this is the single biggest friction point between how the county wants clubhouses structured in San Diego County and how Clubhouse International recommends it. So the clubhouse focuses on strengths, talents, and abilities. So as far as Clubhouse International is concerned, the work order a day must not include medication clinics, individual therapy, or day treatment. What that means in practice is that when the county wants to co-locate a social worker in a clubhouse, that flies in the face of the Clubhouse International model. And It's very challenging for organizations that respond to county RFPs when they have these requirements like every member will get 1 hour of individual one-on-one therapy with a social worker. And Clubhouse International says they must not. It's not a medical environment. So one of the things that's written into the RFP for San Diego County is all clubhouses must obtain Clubhouse International accreditation, except that some of the services they provide eliminate or at least are considered detrimental when you are being evaluated for Clubhouse International accreditation. So that is the biggest challenge. And one of the reasons I'm calling this out now is because we perceive it's going to be an even bigger challenge with the way that the county is imagining the clubhouses will be funded in the future. Um, Two other things that are sort of interesting and sometimes difficult for our partners in the business community to understand is that work done in the clubhouse is for the benefit of the clubhouse and the enhancement of the clubhouse community. So there are some employers that would love to take advantage of the workforce that was available with piecemeal work. That is not an option in the clubhouse the way it's set up. The idea is that the work being done in the clubhouse is for the clubhouse. And the second one is related along to that, which is that the work for individuals or outside agencies is acceptable. It's for the clubhouse. So that has been a challenge in San Diego, where we do have a very robust network of programs that provide job training in, offsite or something like that. And employers want to continue that and do it in a clubhouse way, as opposed to having clubhouse members go to their workplace and do work and that sort of thing. And then connected to that is members aren't paid for work in the clubhouse. But remember, members and staff are doing all of these things side by side. And it can create some friction for members who are there 5 days a week doing things that look exactly the same as the staff person does, including, interviewing potential members or preparing the meals and that sort of thing. So this has been a challenge for us specifically in NAMI, but also in terms of seeing the model utilized more widely in San Diego County. Do you want to go to the next slide? So one of the things I had referenced before, this is what the board for one of our clubhouses looks like for the work order day. And I have to tell you, every time I go and see this and I see that it's been updated, I'm like, I wish I was that organized in my own work. But one of the things that the clubhouse does is in the morning they have a community meeting. So the Monday community meeting might actually be to lay out the next week's schedule, or perhaps the Friday community meeting to lay out the next week's schedule. So when they have different classes there, it may very well be member-led classes, but it's flexible. It's also structured. So the idea is that when you go into a clubhouse as an outsider and you see people, everybody knows what they're doing, everybody knows what they're expected to do, and that work is getting done. Next slide just shows a couple of examples of Clubhouse work that we do. So these are all from our Connections to Community Clubhouse, but because it gets a lot of wear and tear, it needs to be heavily cleaned. And so members would do the cleaning with the power washing. I couldn't tell you whether those are members or staff preparing the meal or not, and that's part of the idea. So those kinds of things are often the job skills that members gain that they can use when they're trying to go out into the community and get part-time jobs, meaningful volunteering work, or full-time jobs. Um, and all of our clubhouses have employment specialists who are doing two things, working with potential employers to create a path for members who want to do that, but also working with members to increase their employment readiness, including, resume writing, and that sort of thing. So that is the story about clubhouses now. Before I get into the future of clubhouses, are there any questions you have?
I've got a question. So Prop one, I mean, basically eliminated, I mean, the transition looked like it was going to eliminate the 10 clubhouses sounds like I'm going to hear good news about four of the clubhouses, but I think the other six clubhouse funding is still in jeopardy
Yeah.
with this whole medic. And here's my thing, and maybe it's for the better for the end. You can decide, but I just have a hard time understanding what the whole Medi-Cal requirement, why it's a problem for the existing situation. And the other question is from a standpoint of club activity and the options for clubs to participate. Are there restrictions on clubs doing any type of labor, whether maintenance or food preparation, in terms of coming into a club and supporting them?
So I'll take the second one first because it's the easier one to answer. And the answer is yes. There actually isn't the provision for people to come in from the outside and do those things because the expectations is that clubs are self-sufficient. So in an ideal world, in a perfect world, in a model where there were no restrictions at all, the idea is that a club would be organic to the community and completely self-sufficient in the community. So some of the opportunities, like especially at shelters or like the rescue mission, where you have for people to come in and do things for the participants in those programs or give things to them, meals or whatever, that those opportunities don't exist in clubhouses the way they're ideally structured because they are self-sufficient. So that has literally been one of the biggest challenges because uh, people want to help out, but the way they help out is actually, I mean, they would have to be really members of the clubhouse to participate. Like it doesn't allow us to do activities inside. Now, what we have successfully done in the past is when an organization organizes an activity outside of the clubhouse that clubhouse members can participate in. So, like a good example might be beach cleanups or putting together wellness kits, toiletry kits, that kind of stuff. Like the clubhouse
Or the
members
walk?
or the walk, right? Yeah, yeah. Clubhouse members can go out and do them. Clubhouse members and staff, and we encourage that. That's actually a great thing. But it's just we can't bring people into the clubhouse in the ideal world because it's supposed to be self-sufficient. So I'm going to go to Bob, if you don't mind, go to 13.
Rick, I have a
Yes,
question for
sure.
you, and it's in the weeds kind of question, but since everybody is expected to help out when they come in, is every member expected to get a food handler's permit? Because you never know when you're going to be on food duty.
Great question. So that goes back to the question. The answer is no. Everyone is not expected to get a food handler's permit, but everyone who handles food is expected to get a food handler's permit. So, as part of the enrollment process for the club, you talk about your personal goals. And so there may be people whose personal goal is to be more proficient at Microsoft Office. And so when they have the work units where they're doing that, they're doing things like typing up the daily attendance roster, typing up the minutes of the community meeting, and that's their job. They're not doing the food stuff. So it's not that they're rotating through all
Okay,
of the jobs.
okay,
It's just
okay.
that they're participating together. Yeah, but that's a great question. All right. And I'll certainly take more questions. So there's two interesting developments around clubhouses in California and San Diego that are going to change the way they look, and we hope for the better. But there might be a little bit of short-term turbulence. So the first one is actually very exciting. Clubhouse International has been designated Center of Excellence for Clubhouse Services by the California Department of Healthcare Services. And there's actually a Clubhouse International staff person who lives and works in San Diego who is supposed to be providing technical assistance to clubhouses to help them work better. So why is that so great? It's so great because having someone here in California who says, whoa, labor law says that before someone can do a job, they have to be oriented and they have to do a background check and they have to get, harassment training. So we can't have staff people who might be working in the clubhouse one day, but then next day filling in Albertsons because somebody didn't show up, and then the next day filling in Meineke transmission because somebody didn't show up. Like getting that back to Clubhouse International, that real-time feedback would be very helpful because we need to create models that create a more realistic opportunity for members to transition into meaningful employment. And right now, that model is not there. The other thing, though, is there are times that we have questions about like, can we do this? Should we do this? What are other clubhouses doing? And to try to get a response from Clubhouse International to that when there's somebody right here who can come in and view our clubhouse and say, oh, this is the way I would do it, or this is the way we think it should work, or that kind of thing. So it is, we think that that is a great development, and we think it shows some level of commitment from uh, DHCS to expand clubhouse services in the community. In fact, one of the things that I would say, just speaking as a NAMI staff person who got involved because I have a family member with lived experience. For my family member who struggled for 20 years before they finally passed away, this would have been a great option for her to be able to go to a clubhouse one, two, three, four, 5 times a week, to have a place where she felt like she was making a meaningful contribution, where people cared about her, where they would have been looking for her if she hadn't come in. Like that was one of the things that I thought was really interesting on our most recent clubhouse tour, um, that the members keep track of the other members. And if someone has enrolled but hasn't come for 3 days, they make an effort to get in touch with them and make sure that they're okay and invite them back. That part's great. So I would love to see this expanded. It is in keeping with the NAMI idea that people with lived experience share with people who are living through the experience and help them be successful. That's awesome. All right. So there are two things simultaneously impacting the funding mechanism as is currently set up. And that is that under MHSA, clubhouse services were recognized by the state as a valuable service that counties could contract out and be reimbursed for. As San Diego County has interpreted the transition to BHSA, that is not the case as the county has interpreted it. The county's understanding of what's happening with BHSA and the development of this infrastructure called BH Connect is that clubhouses will still be a service that is encouraged and hopefully will be expanded, but that either the county or the provider or some billing agent will track participation in the clubhouse and submit directly for reimbursement in the Medi-Cal program. So as a practical matter, what that could mean in San Diego is that clubhouses may not be available to everyone. If you're expected to bill Medi-Cal for reimbursement and someone comes in and they don't have Medi-Cal, are they going to be welcome in the clubhouse? Is it going to become a more exclusive thing? That's the first challenge. The second is right now, the codes that would apply are actually clinical codes for therapy. And they have minimums. In fact, one of the things that was proposed is a clinical code for group therapy with a 3-hour minimum. Well, does that mean that members have to stay for 3 hours before before that bill can be submitted for reimbursement? It's not clear. The second thing, though, is if we're billing a clinical code to the Medi-Cal program, is that actually putting us in conflict with the commitment to be a community hub and not a clinical resource?
That's conflicting. That's absolutely conflicting.
Sure seems that way. Sure seems that way.
Sure does.
So that is literally the biggest challenge ahead. Now, if San Diego County and the state say we would like you to organize mental health clubhouses according to the Clubhouse International model, but you don't need to have Clubhouse International accreditation to do it, you could finesse that, right? You could do a model that's similar, but not that. But if they write into the requirements, it must be a Clubhouse International accredited clubhouse, and they're also requiring you to deliver services that can conflict with that. That's going to be a challenge. And as of 447 on March 26th, 2026, we don't know. So what we do know is this. Uh, by the end of January, all of the operators of clubhouses, of county-funded clubhouses in San Diego County, received notices that either their clubhouse, which was in the middle of a contract, would not be refunded for extension years starting July 1st, or the clubhouse that had reached the end of its 5-year contract would not automatically be extended because there would be an RFP posted for similar services, but under a different model. So it's a quirk of county contracting, two things. First, a contract longer than 5 years is not allowed, so it has to go out for rebid. And the idea is to keep someone from getting something forever and never having to prove value to it. But the second is the way the county actually awards contracts. So when we got our clubhouse in El Cajon, we got a congratulations. You have been chosen to operate the East Corner Clubhouse. You are been given a 1-year contract with the county option to extend it annually up to 4 times. So that those are the options. So
Well, that sucks.
it's
How do you,
challenging. It's
how do
challenging,
you
right?
do any planning if
Right.
you only have a 1-year contract?
Right. And so one of the it's very hard to do that. Um, One of the things historically that we had used as a guidepost for us is that unless you committed egregious acts, the county did not cancel your contract in the middle of the 5 years. That the extension was expected and reasonable. So this is actually the first time where there's been a significant number of contracts being canceled in the middle of the cycle and not for cause. But we understand it's because of the transformation of BHSA. I mean, we get that. But the thing that is also puzzling is starting July of last year, we knew that two of our contracts and other providers all knew that two of their contracts, so 4 clubhouses, were reaching the end of their 5 years and were up for reprocurement. As of today, the RFP to continue operating those clubhouses has still not been posted. And it would take several months to respond to an RFP once it gets posted. So when we got the notice that both we knew that the some were coming to an end. When we got the notice that the additional clubhouses were being canceled in the middle of their contract, we said to the county, as partners of the county and as people who are care about the participants in our program, okay, what is your timeline so that there's no diminishment in service and no gap in service? And they said, well, we'll post it in February with a deadline in March or April. We'll make awards in May or June, and those services can begin in July. That is not how it has turned out so far. And as of yesterday, if you had a chance to see Lisa Halverstad's Voice of San Diego article, where she brought up this point and in an interview, and she spoke to the director of behavioral health services. This was the first time we'd ever heard that the county was contemplating extending our contracts without new proposals. But the thing is, they haven't told us yet, or any of the providers, that that's what they're going to do. And one of the things that we need to do is give our staff appropriate notice that the contracts were coming to an end so that, they would have the opportunity to look for other jobs if they need to. But also, we have landlords and vendors that we needed to know that the contracts were coming to an end so that they could rent out the buildings or so on. So we're in this point where the future looks like more clubhouses providing more services and perhaps being even better resources to the community. But in San Diego County, it hasn't been shared what that'll look like so that we can respond to it. And despite our concerns that, stopping on June 30th is going to be detrimental to the people who participate, we haven't gotten guidance that don't worry about it. You're not going to have to stop on June 30th. We'll have some idea. So that's where we are today.
Rick, a
So
quick
you're
question about you said this is how our county is interpreted, BHSA. Is it being interpreted differently at other counties? And if so, what are those counties doing?
Yeah, so great question. So the way the law is written, the new system, the new alignment of resources is supposed to go into effect July 1st. And so there's that. So LA County said, well, we only are going to send our plan to the state in June. We can't possibly implement it in July. So the people that they have contracted with have been told, no matter what it looks like, we are giving you a 1 year extension because we're going to need time to transition into the new system. Now, whether that's allowed or not is a question. Whether the governor and the Department of Healthcare Services is going to push back on that is a question. But it's one of those things that we've been saying to our county, like, we think that you can actually give us an extension as long as there's a commitment in good faith to moving into the new system.
Because uh, theoretically, anyway, there are still, let's say, the buckets of funding available that they could draw from to still continue those contracts. I mean, I think that's a big problem with from MH, not a problem, but one of the big changes between MHSA to BHSA is that the funding buckets, the required funding buckets are changing. But
Right.
but
And it is the San Diego County's impression that those buckets are changing July 1st, that they will not be able to draw on MHSA money. And
right.
so whether LA County can do that or not, I don't know. But they have decided not to let that to be a barrier to them
Yeah,
doing an
they're
extension.
they're making the transition that 1 year. Yeah, okay. That's good
Yeah,
to know.
yeah.
I'm hearing that they're likely going to punt, but and go with LA. But what are do you mind sharing the other organizations, companies that have the clubhouses?
Sure.
I'm used to
The ones I'm familiar with are Turn Behavioral Healthcare and UPAC, the Union Pan Asian Communities, are the ones that I'm familiar with. There may be another one because there's also a specialty clubhouse. I think that it's a specialty clubhouse serving deaf folks in the community, but I don't know which agency runs that one.
thanks.
Yeah, and so one of the questions, just since we're talking about that, one of the questions is, are specialty clubhouses going to be supported, or are they all going to be general mental health clubhouses? We've seen indications that specialty clubhouses are unlikely to be funded, but we've actually got nothing formal other than that our Connections to Community specialty clubhouse was scheduled to be at the end of its contract, and we haven't seen a new one put out there yet.
Are you talking about the ones run by UPAC?
Well, so it's a good question. So, uh, one of the UPAC clubhouses was considered informally a specialty clubhouse serving the Asian American and Pacific Islander community, but UPAC would say, "Oh no, it's a specialty club. It's a general mental health clubhouse." So,
Well, that's what I was going to say because everything I see, whenever I see anybody from UPAC, it's all inclusive.
right.
It's like okay, you're invited to.
Right, right. And, we would say the same thing of the connections to community clubhouse, even though our primary uh, outreach was to people who are
Was
homeless and
Ted.
housing insecure. We welcomed anyone in. In fact, the idea of creating a broad, diverse cross-section of models walking a journey of recovery is actually a very strong one. The second thing that is coming in, and I know I'm running low on time, or close to the end, but the second thing that is impacting what this is going to look like. So HR 1, the federal legislation, the big bill, um, created, updated requirements for who is eligible to receive Medi-Cal. And there is a little bit of discrepancy between who the state says is eligible for Medi-Cal and who the federal government says is eligible for Medi-Cal. And why that matters is this. Prior to HR 1, if a state decided to expand the population eligible for Medi-Cal and the state was willing to pay for it completely, not use federal dollars, the federal government typically gave them the waiver to do that. What HR 1 has said is we are not going to give a waiver. And also, if you do it, we're going to punish you. So, and the way it looks like, and I wish I had done this, taken a screenshot, August 15th when I saw the presentation, but there's a very complicated formula because the federal government does a couple of things for Medicaid. It gives the states the money that pays for the Medicaid services, but it also gives the states the largest share of money to administer the Medicaid services, though they're administered at a state level. And one of the things that they said is if you don't do what we say, we are going to cut that and also make you pay more into the Medicaid coverage. And um, so they're actually going to redistribute money that would have been used for healthcare services, but they're going to use it in a way that is more punitive than has ever been seen in the Medicaid system. So one of the things that was interesting about the Medicaid system is it was the floor of providing health insurance coverage to the very poor and disabled, but states could build up additional floors and get to a ceiling. And HR 1 seems to have established the floor is also the ceiling. And so that'll be challenging. So there's actual money attached to it, which is going to be uh, make it curious. So one of the things that we have not done in clubhouses is verify people's immigration status. It is possible that HR 1 may require that if the funding is going to come from Medi-Cal. It is possible. The second thing is for the first time ever, HR 1 is imposing a requirement that people verify eligibility for the program every 6 months. And in the more than 6 years I've been with NAMI, Medicaid eligibility has always been need to be re-verified every year. And it's a challenge to do that. To do it every 6 months doesn't just double the challenge, it's a magnitude of. And in on in without any malice or ill intent, just that requirement is going to make it much harder for people who qualify as very poor or disabled to obtain the service that they are eligible for. It's a paperwork thing. And so, one thing that is not clear is who is going to do that. One of our suggestions to the county was let clubhouse staff who have already been verifying eligibility for other things like Social Security advocacy and stuff like that participate in that process. But that is moving well outside of the Clubhouse International framework. So I could stay longer if you guys can, but I also want to be respectful and mindful of your time.
How much more have you got?
That was my question slide. So
Ah, there you go. That was a question. Well, it sounds like there's so many unknowns right now And do you have a direct path to getting all your answers, or is it just this nebulous cloud of questions that everybody's pointing at each other and nobody knows who's got the final say? That's how it feels.
Yeah, great question. So the answer is yes. Through the formal requirements. So we're in conversation all the time with representatives of the county about the programs that we currently have going on. And then we actually have county folks that are clubhouse managers and program directors meet with regularly, if not monthly, regularly. But so they are constantly saying, what is the latest? They're asking that question. The second thing is we have actually have as members of the Mental Health Contractors Association, we meet regularly with county staff to talk about what is the landscape for providing mental health services under the contracting framework that the county has. And so we're asking them. But the other thing is, the behavioral health services director is very accessible. So Catherine, the NAMI CEO, Jim, the Turn Behavioral Health CEO, uh, I can't remember the woman at UPAC. She's the president of Rotary 33.
Oh, yeah, Wendy.
Wendy, they all have direct connections to Nadia. And, when they call and say, where are you with this? What do you think about this? She says, I don't know. We haven't decided or whatever. So that's why it was really interesting when she said to Lisa Halverstad, well, we're thinking about maybe extending this because Catherine, Wendy, and Jim have all specifically asked, would you think about extending these? And the answer was, no, we're not thinking about extending these. So that was a change. Um, but the issue is that somebody has to decide and then tell us because I know that tomorrow and also next week we will have existing clubhouse staff who have given us their notice because they're going to pursue other opportunities that if we told them, oh, we're going to get a 1 year extension, they would stay, right?
Yeah.
But we don't know. We also know that there's a landlord that if we say we need a 1 year extension, they'll say no way. But the problem we have is we don't know what zip code the county is going to require the clubhouse to be in, so we don't know where to look for the new facility. So
Well, it sounds like the key question is where are the monies? There's a lot of money out on the table that's going to be decided in the next two months. And is it going to end up in the politicians' pockets, the lawyers' pockets, the grant writers' pockets, or maybe my company that just hired a bunch of 12-year-olds to help people enroll? So I don't know which of the ones it'll be, but it's a challenge and I appreciate you working hard at it.
thank you.
I appreciate the
Well,
presentation.
thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to learn a little bit more and to share. And the thing that we would ask for is if you if you know if you have the inclination and you want to, try to move this forward, like a great thing is to call your board of supervisors, supervisor, the office of your supervisor and say, hey, I would love to know what the county is going to do about clubhouses because we know that they respond to that kind of encouragement. And at this point, we have a way that we like it to go, but we just need to know if
Yeah.
it's not going to go that way. And so for the Board of Supervisors to give direction to the BHS that, give them extension, don't give them extension, whatever, like a decision would be helpful. And um, so there's that. So, but the other thing is just sharing with people that this is resources available. And through June 30th, it's going to continue to be available. And so people can be helped by it. So if you know someone who would be eligible for a clubhouse, I'd refer them there. If you know family members, one of the things I discovered in El Cajon or at the East Corner Clubhouse, there are 4 board and cares that during the day, they don't allow their residents to stay in the facility during the day.
Huh.
So they drop them off at the clubhouse, right? I mean, if there's a caregiver who needs a respite for twice a week for 3 hours, have their family member come to the
Huh.
clubhouse. So thanks for taking the time to learn a little bit more.
Rick, is there anything, I mean, just thinking about, backfilling or backstopping this with, nonprofit dollars or other avenues of financial support? I mean, is that something that is possible or are you looking at that at all?
It's possible, and we're looking at it. The challenge is it's a very significant amount of money.
Yeah.
And this goes back to because these are safety net services that the state says counties, you must provide safety net services. That's why they've always been in that umbrella. Um, I
Yeah.
I don't know exactly. I don't know the exact numbers, but I think the least expensive clubhouse that we have, I think it cost $480,000 a year to run. That's very challenging to do in philanthropic dollars.
Yeah.
It's, and that's so, but yeah, we're looking at it. In fact,
Well, Bob
because
can take care of one clubhouse, but I don't know that he can afford all of them.
you know what, that is good to know, Dave. Bob, I'll need to follow up with you. But I mean, it's possible. It is possible. The In other communities that don't have the kind of requirements around labor law, safety, insurance, that kind of thing, that California does, grassroots communities support the clubhouses, and make them self-sufficient and sustainable.
Yeah.
But when I first started 6 years ago, I talked to somebody who had a clubhouse somewhere in the southeastern United States, and they did a car wash every month. Well, that's great, except in San Diego, you have to have water recapture, you have to have biodegradable soap, you have to have, safety training so that people don't get run over by a car,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah, it has to go through SQL review probably.
probably.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but I am encouraged by the two things: the fact that the state is expecting counties to do more of this, and that there's a center of excellence here. It'll be
Yeah.
better. I just think the next year is going to be very turbulent, and
Oops, you
You
muted
just hit
yourself.
mute on yourself, Rick.
oh, there you go. I was going to say, I think the next year is going to be turbulent, and not necessarily in the best interest of the participants and members who are currently stable.
Yeah.
And that's where our concern is, because there are going to be impacts to other safety net services, like the warm line, like the next steps, helping people being discharged from the county hospital.
Which is a
So
really big one. Yeah.
yeah, so we're concerned about that. But I think the system that emerges will be better and stronger and more robust. Um, but how do we get there?
How do we get there? Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think
thanks for your
that
time today. I really appreciate it.
Rick,
Thank
Go
thank
you.
you.
go
No,
Thank
thank you
you.
very
Pods,
much.
right? BLA.
Yeah, that's right. No, Rick, thanks very much. I really appreciate it. And thanks for letting us record it because I'm sure that's going to be really helpful to get it out to
Yeah,
other
absolutely.
folks that aren't here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, great, and just edit the ums and the uhs and the but also, I'm happy if people want to meet one on one, or if people have questions and they want to call. I'm happy to take those, and I hope I'll see you all at the NAMI walks, which is a month from yesterday. It's going
Yeah,
to be a great event, and and that's a place where I think that people who are looking for resources ought to come, because it is the single largest gathering of providers, and so it's a great opportunity. So our clubhouses are gonna be represented there, because they're still going to be operating till at least through June 30th. So
yeah.
Good.
thank you,
Good.
everyone. Have a great
Thank
one.
Rick,
you.
Rick,
Thank
Bye-bye.
thanks very
you.
much.
Bye-bye.
David,
Thank
Michelle, if you
you.
want to, yeah, if David, Michelle, if you want to stick around for just a couple minutes.
Sure.
Oh, I'd love to.
That's
Well, that is probably the most show